I didn't hit the record button like a dumbass, so had to restart the intro. Beyonce, the Homecoming live album, which was released a year after her legendary Coachella performance. I believe all of the audio pretty much from this is taken from the Coachella performance. Honestly, because it's a live album, people do not appreciate it enough. Because truly and honestly, that performance is so legendary. I feel like this is one of the best live albums, I'll say it, of all time. And just a legendary performance, and it made for a spectacular live album with versions that, even from stuff you might not like, sounded even better. Doesn't get enough credit. I'm gonna put the strong in the A tier. Strong A. Let's keep going with the Knowleses, okay? The sisters. We got Solange. When I Get Home. Cool album. Really good album. Not as good as I See at the Table. I love the way this album just kind of like flows, how all the tracks kind of transition into one another. If you're not listening to this album in full, you're not really getting the full experience. Not as quality as A Seat at the Table, but still solid. Cool features too. I'd put Solange, When I Get Home in the B tier. Next up, Igor, a concept album. A concept album about being, I guess, kind of the third wheel, or really the side piece, I guess. The side piece of this relationship. Cool concept album. Tyler's least kind of rap album, even though there's still like some rap hip hop elements in there. It's mainly like pop, neo soul. I love this album. It is my favorite Tyler project. I think it's his magnum opus. I'm not sure if he'll ever top this. It's gonna be hard to ever top this, but a great concept album. Fantastic melodies on this album. The bridges on this album throughout. Obviously, we know Tyler's so obsessed with bridges. Yeah, I have to put Igor in the S tier. It is Tyler's best album in my opinion. All right, from there we have Lana Del Rey, Norman, freaking Rockwell. When this came out, like I've liked some Lana stuff here and there, but this is the first like Lana album that I truly loved. And I was just so impressed with the songwriting on this record. Obviously, Lana has always been a great songwriter, but here I think she was like her most mature and just like instrumentally. Jack Antonoff's production throughout this thing is really pretty. And up until this point was my favorite Lana album, but that has since been passed. I do prefer her newest album, but this is still fantastic. Yeah, Lana Del Rey, Norman fucking Rockwell is going in the A tier. God, this album is so frustrating, man. Like, I want to joke about it, but I just, like, can't. What happened, man? The most frustrating thing about this is, like, 2019 was 5 years ago. This album got crucified, and rightfully so. It's a mess. Production-wise, it's a mess. The direction he's going for, a mess. The rapping on this album is legitimately terrible. It just felt like it was very thrown together, slapped together so quickly. The only saving grace, kind of this album is some of the features are pretty good. Yeah, I mean, this album was justified for the scrutiny it got because it's an awful mess. F, unfortunately. Moving on. FKA Twigs, Magdalene, another album that, like, took forever to get, man. But so worth the wait. Oh my God, so worth the wait. I don't love it as much as LP1, but it's still like another record that's taking a lot of risks with great writing too. Twigs, such a great voice. It's a great album. Do I love it as much as LP1? And I like Capri Songs a bit more too. But still, great art pop album. Deserved of all the praise it gets. Throw this in the very strong B tier. It wouldn't be A for me, but it's close. But it wouldn't be quite A for me. Pop Smoke, Meet the Woo.
Rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
Rest in peace, who?
Pop Smoke.
Like when Pop Smoke originally came onto the scene, I definitely saw what was to like about him, like that deep voice, like it's so stand out. And I had went back to this project after the release of his posthumous album, and I was like, God damn, dude, like every track on here is just a banger, man. It's so aggressive in your face. This is a perfect gym album. If you never listened to this in the gym, listen to this thing in the gym for sure. God damn though, it's just so aggressive, such a voice he had. It's a little bit one-dimensional, sure, but I mean at the time too, you can't discount the influence this project had. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in B. Definitely a project that grew on me. Miss Billie Eilish, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? The debut album from her. I've said this before, but I truly don't think there has been an artist in mainstream pop, or that is at least as popular as Billie is, that has put out an album that is as weird as this one. Like Phineas's production on this album is so strange. It's actually kind of wild to me how popular it was, because it's not something that should be popular. It's legitimately weird, a little bit experimental. And Billie found her own sound with this. Her and Phineas together found their own sound that made them so stand out, not like anyone ever at that time. And yeah, a lot of people tried to bite it. And I think this thing is great. There's not many mainstream pop albums that are as weird as this one to ever release. A tier. Daniel Caesar, O1 Case Study. I really like Daniel's debut, Freudian. This one, I'm not into. I put this in the C. I just think it was a sophomore slump. I don't know. It just wasn't as standout as the debut. All right, James Blake, Assume Form. Really good album. I mean, James Blake doesn't really miss. I mean, if you love James Blake, you're going to like this album. I love James Blake. I love his writing style. I love his voice. God, he has such a smooth, calm voice. And he tried like some trap stuff on here. He has that track with Travis, obviously. I absolutely love the track with Rosalia on here. If you've never heard it, listen to it because that is one of my favorite James Blake songs. James Blake does not miss. It's not like one of James' best albums, but it's a solid album from him, a really good one. So B tier. Ariana Grande, Thank You Next. Yeah, I definitely do not like this album. Thank You Next, I hate it. I don't like it. Very personal, vulnerable record from Ariana. And yeah, I mean, she did a lot of cool like trap kind of pop infusions on here that a lot of people duplicated. A lot of people duplicated this too. Yeah, I just think some of her best songs are on here. And like I said, it's such a personal record. It's to me her best. One of the best pop albums of the 2010s in my opinion. And I'm not sure if Ariana will ever top this one, but it's great. I'll put this one strong in the A tier as well. This won't be a quick one, but I do want to talk about this one. Rico Nasty and Kenny Beats. Banger, 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 banger little album. It's short, but goddamn, Kenny Beats' production goes off, and Rico's voice is so goddamn aggressive with energy on this track, on this album. Yeah, I mean, I love Rico. I don't think Rico gets enough credit as much these days as she did when she first started coming out, which is the same. She's super versatile, man. B tier. Wise Blood, Titanic Rising. God damn, I was just blown away by how beautiful this album was and how great of a songwriter she was, specifically on this album. And goddamn, what an iconic cover. Yeah, but one of the best written albums of that year for me. Wise Blood, Titanic Rising is going in the S tier. It's one of the best albums from that year. Lizzo, Cause I Love You. This is actually, like, I did like this album. I thought this was a really good debut from her. Obviously, she has a great voice, but a lot of cool mixtures of, like, pop, R&B, and, like, hip-hop on this. One of the better popular albums to come out from that year. I do think it was good. B tier. Woo! Freddie Gibbs and Madlib, Bandana, 5 years after Pinata, which is a classic album. And they returned 5 years later and dropped another one. They did it again. They dropped another classic. Freddie's rapping on this album, I think this is his best rapped album. Like, Freddie's rapping on this album is incredible. I don't prefer this to Pinata just because I feel like I do like Madlib's production a lot more on Pinata. Yeah, this thing is a modern rap classic. In my eyes. Bandana, strong A. Pinata would be in like the strong ass category. Lil Pump, Harvard Dropout. Listen. I used to be like kind of a Lil Pump defender. I thought like Lil Pump could put out a good banger with like some energy. Then he dropped the Harvard Dropout, which he hyped up for like, it felt like forever. Yeah, it was just like more commercial sounding in like the least interesting way possible. All that energy that he used to have was just like not as close to at the same level. What truly started the fall off of Lil Pump was this album. So yeah, this album is awful. F tier. Taylor Swift, Lover. One of the worst first singles for any Taylor record ever. That track with frickin' Brandon Urie, it's arguably the worst Taylor song ever. But I will say Lover is, in terms of like Taylor's pop records, it's on the better scale. It's a very mixed bag. That's the issue with it. You'll have great tracks like the self-title track. The self-title track is great. There's some bad ones as well, and that Brandon Urie track is unexcusable. It's certainly not bad, maybe even a little bit overhated, but I place it in the C tier. It's an alright Taylor record. Young Thug, So Much Fun. Perfect album title because this album truly is so much fun.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I mean, I still prefer Jeffrey, but this album's just, it's way more fun with its features, with its vocal inflections. Not perfect, but goddamn, it's just fun freaking rap tracks. Really good. Put this in the B tier. Posty, Hollywood's Bleeding, right? Yeah, this was a bad follow-up to Beer Bongs and Bentleys, which I honestly really liked. He had like a lot of cool rock crossovers kind of on this album, but this really was Posty's last album that he truly went like full kind of pop mode on. A few highlights here and there, but yeah, not as great as Beer Bongs. C tier. I love me some Gex, man. 100 Gex. 1,000 Gex. Listen, it's not going to be for everyone. I get it. But goddamn, this album is so wild and fun. Listen, a lot of people have gotten influence from this record. Like, this is an important record for the genre of pop. And it's also wild, insane, and over the top. And I absolutely love it. I don't care what anyone says. 1,000 Gex by 100 Gex is amazing. And I'm putting this in the S tier. Father of a Bride, Vampire Weekend. I'm going to be honest, I don't love this album as much as I do all their other albums. It's certainly decent. It's their worst. Yeah, I agree. It's their worst, but it's still pretty good. Like, even Vampire Weekend's worst album is pretty solid. So throw this in C tier. There's some highlights, but it's a little long as well. Jesus is King Time, at that point, was, in my opinion, by far the worst Kanye album. For an album that's supposed to be a gospel album, so not Christ-like. I'm sorry. Half of this album is just like Kanye and his ego. Christianity, for him, that like fuels his ego almost. The one song that comes to mind is that track, I don't even remember the name of it, but where he's kind of just like crying about how Christians like won't accept him. It's so whack. And the Water at that time was like the worst produced track to ever be on a Kanye album at that time. Obviously, Vultures has pretty much eclipsed everything off of that. 2 good songs on this album, Salah, and I do like the closer, the Clips closer. Other than that, this thing is a mess. It's unfinished as hell, and it's pretty bad. So the 2 good tracks on here make me put it in the D tier. Bon Iver, I don't know. I don't really have too much big thoughts on this album. It's certainly not my favorite. Post like to Emma Forever Go, which will to me forever be Bon Iver's best. I thought he's had some good projects, but nothing that really blew me away since that debut. I need a new Bon Iver album though. Like, can we get a new Bon Iver album? I'll throw this one in C, unfortunately. Little Sims, Gray Area. I know like Sims got a lot of hype, obviously post sometimes I might be introvert, deservingly so. Like, I feel like this album doesn't get enough respect. I mean, her past 2 albums have gotten more love, and they're great. They're great albums, but I don't know. This one is just as good. This album is just as good. The rapping is just as good. I like the sound of this one a lot. Yeah, Little Sims is one of the best rappers living on this planet. So obviously think this thing is great. I'll put this in A tier easily. One of the best rap albums of that year easily. Let's go with Megan Thee Stallion, Fever. This is my favorite project from Megan. Now, this is the one that kind of made me a Megan fan. The rapping on here is fire. Love that Houston sound from this. And you know, it's a mixtape, but it gives off that really good mixtape vibe. Great rapping on this thing. Good mixtape. B tier. Denzel Curry, Zoo. One of those like shorter type of projects from Denzel, but you know, one where he kind of paid homage to where he was from. Pretty hard-hitting record, very Miami type of feel to it. It's certainly not like the best Denzel project, but it was like one of his side projects. They're all good because the guy is one of the best rappers living, so B tier. Danny Brown, you know what I'm saying? Another guy that just doesn't really miss. And this was like a more calm record from Danny, which I think it's one of the reasons why it's not personally like my favorite Danny record, but I still think it was a cool direction for him. At times more personal record. Solid album in his discography. Not one of his best, but still really good. B tier. All right, Earth Gang, Mirrorland. Good project from Earth Gang. I think their most standout to this date. Nothing too special. It's cool. It's cool. I put it in the C. Summer Walker. Honestly, this one, I'm not even sure if I should rank. I have not revisited this, and this thing over the years has gotten like quite a bit of praise. So I do want to revisit it and kind of see where my head is at with it. So this one, I'm not gonna rank this one. This one's undetermined. All right, Harry Styles, Fine Line. It's a Harry Styles album. I'm sorry. It's meh. Out of the 3 records he's dropped so far, Fine Line is probably my least favorite. I think the debut has some higher highs. Would probably say the latest one is probably his best, even though it in no way deserved album of the freaking year. Never really been a Harry guy. I think maybe in the future he could put out a decent album, but legitimately fine. That's why it's called Fine Line, I guess. So, C. JPEG Mafia.
Damn, Peggy.
Just a year after Veteran, this thing is more melodic compared to that album. It's still same old Peggy, and if you're a Peggy fan, you're gonna like this album. It's definitely like the most he's ever sung on an album. In terms of the albums he was released, from Veteran to this one to LP to the Peggy and Danny collab, obviously. This is probably my least favorite, but that doesn't really mean anything. It's still great. And the strong B, the strong B, the strongest of B's, right before A. Ginger, Brockhampton. Long live Brockhampton. I don't care what anybody says. I will forever love Brockhampton, dude. Brockhampton, this is like their most sad record. This is a sad little album. And I think they tried doing this with Iridescence. Looking back then, I don't think it was executed as well. Here, I think they got that sound perfected a bit. I always thought Brockhampton was great. I didn't think they necessarily ended their careers off very strong. Iridescence had its highlights. This I thought was really good. And honestly, the 2021 album is even better in my opinion. I'm gonna throw this in the B tier. Clairo, Immunity. I think this has maybe grown on me a bit when I originally heard it because, I mean, I love Sling. Sling is my shit, all right? Sling I love. Writing-wise, it's just so much improvement. Like, so much improvement. And, yeah, I also really like Jax Antonoff's production on Sling as well. It has its highs. We love Sophia. Sophia's an all-time banger, right? Some good tracks. Some of them, meh. some C for Clairo. Maggie Rogers. I don't really have much to say about the Maggie Rogers album because I wasn't really a fan. I think what she's doing now, Maggie, is a little bit more interesting than what she was doing with this album. So I am a bit interested to see where she goes with this next record. I don't have much thoughts on this one. I probably throw this in like D. I thought this album was boring when I originally heard it, personally. All right, let's talk about real pop music, man. Charli XCX. Nobody makes pop music like Charli XCX, man. The features on this album are excellent. This album just goes hard, man. It goes hard, and it's such a creative pop album. This year was really the year of like creative pop records between the Billy, this one, the Twigs, I guess, too. I personally prefer How I'm Feeling Now, but she could not miss at this time. So I'm putting this in the very strong A tier. Then we got Baby Keem, Die For My Bitch. Cool album. Honestly, another one I do probably need to revisit. I do like the Melodic Blue quite a bit, and there are some, once again, a lot of great tracks on here. Mosh Pit, whew. I do like it, though. Like, I generally remember liking it. Yeah, honestly, I put Keem in C, but that could honestly change. Caroline Polachek. Listen, just like art pop at its best, I do prefer her newest album, Desire I Want to Turn Into You. However, if you have not heard this album and you love Desire I Want to Turn Into You, highly recommend this one. It's more of the same vibe, just good-ass art pop. Great pop album. Throwing this one in A tier as well. Juice WRLD. Death Race for Love. Oh, God, just another victim of like a long-ass album. Our tracks I like, for sure. It's just too long, and Goodbye Good Riddance was pretty good, and I think this was a step below. Not bad by any means. Rest in peace, Juice WRLD, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent on that one. All right, Rhapsody, Eve, underrated, dude. Rhapsody is currently in like album mode a little bit. If you never heard it, really, really highly recommend. It's a cool concept album where like each track is named after important black woman. Some of the tracks kind of relate to that in that way as well. It's just really well wrapped in a pretty cool concept. I'll put this in the B tier. Ooh, Carly Rae. Not as good, obviously, as Emotion, but just good ass disco dance pop from Carly. I think this one's really good. One of my favorites, for sure. Doesn't top Emotion, but it's really good. B tier. Remember, like, this was a great year for pop. Like, looking back, this was a real, like, Charli, Caroline, Ariana, Billy, Lonnie, even though Lonnie's more singer-songwriter, Carly, well, even the Lizzo record, and Twigs. All right, everyone's been asking for this one. I'm about to disappoint many, I believe. Doja Cat, Hot Pink. Listen, I defended Doja's last album quite a bit when people were shitting on it. I do think her last album was pretty solid and her best in my eyes. There are like 2 to 3 songs on here I truly like. I do like Bottom Bitch. Bottom Bitch slaps. Underrated Doja Cat song. It has a lot of hits, but I'm not as crazy as mainstream pop Doja, even though I do feel like she does have some really good catchy pop tracks. I do prefer Planet Her, and I obviously prefer, I'm not even that crazy about Planet Her, to be honest. I think a lot of the pop sounds don't go over as well. I think Doja is a lot better when she's rapping. I'm sorry, Doja Cat, Hot Pink, I'm not into it. I put it in D tier. All right, Cordae, Lost Boy, good debut. Cordae's pen game on this is quite poetic. Some very nice sounding tracks on here. They give off a very soulful vibe. It was a good debut. Unfortunately, he hit that sophomore slump, but the guy has talent. He's a good rapper, and I think he generally picked pretty good beats on this album too. I'm gonna throw the Lost Boy in the B tier. Anderson .Paak, Ventura. God damn, this was really the last solo album we got from Paak. It's good. I mean, Anderson .Paak is so goddamn talented. The guy will never miss. He's just one of those artists who will never miss. He released this very soon after Oxnard, which was not very loved amongst fans and critics alike. I personally love Oxnard, and he kind of resorted to here going back to that very soulful R&B direction. It's good. I love Anderson .Paak. He's one of my favorite artists. The guy doesn't miss. It's not his best in my eyes, but it is good. I'll put this one in B tier as well. Let's do Logic, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. It's bad. It's F tier. It just felt like Logic didn't really care. He did bounce back with that last album, but it's not very well rapping wise. It's just a very lazy album from Logic. Probably his worst album. Besides Supermarket. Supermarket is awful. All right, Kevin Abstract, Arizona Baby. I like American Boyfriend a lot too, but I actually really like this album. I know people were not crazy about it. I really like Jack Antonoff's production on this. Like, I think it's so cool that Jack Antonoff and Kevin kind of teamed up for a project. But I really like this album. I like Jack Antonoff's production. I think it's smooth. Kevin gets a little bit personal as well. I put it in B. Okay, Lil Nas X, 7. It's a DP. There's some bangers on here, man. Got Panini. Panini's a bop. bop. What else? Rodeo. Is the Cardi B version on there? That one's a banger. It's half and half. It's okay. It's a fun little EP. Nothing too crazy. C tier. All right, Schoolboy Q, Crash Talk. I'll just say off the bat, love Schoolboy Q's last album. Loving it. Blue Lips, go listen to it, go stream it. But this album was kind of Q's sellout record. I think I dislike this album a little bit more than when it originally came out, because as time goes on, it was such like a product of the time. It was came out in. Like, there's a few good tracks, and because it's Q and because he is a lot more standout than like most people at that time, it's a bit better. But I don't think this thing is great. Rapping wise, it's also probably his weakest. There's a few bangers. Num Num Juice is a bop, but unfortunately, I would have to put in the D tier. But I do love Blue Lips. Go listen to Blue Lips if you have not already, because that album is great. Moving on, Tool, F. They should have just stayed retired, man. They were too old to be doing this. Never should have dropped another album. Oh man, Roddy Ricch. I'll just say I like this album. I do. It showed so much potential, and it's just like, what happened, dude? I think this album's very melodic, super catchy. I think Roddy has a nice voice. I put it in the B tier. It just kind of hurts that he had so much potential, or he thought he had so much potential, and he never capitalized. Future, The Wizard. I feel like it's one of Future's best projects. Like, there's a lot of cool like beat switches on here that Future was messing with that he never like really returned to. This is one of his best produced albums. The beat switches are sick. It's not perfect by any means, but I do feel like it's one of Future's best studio albums, and we don't talk about that enough. Yeah, I like this album a lot. B tier. Next up, dear God, Ed Sheeran, the number 6 collaborations. Why did this happen? Why did this exist? We never needed this. The most rapping. I've never needed this much rapping on an Ed Sheeran album in my life. Why, Edward? Why? God, he has a track with Eminem and 50 Cent on this album. Like, why? F tier. Let's go. I mean, I guess it's the baby's best project. C tier, I guess. Bring Hot Pink up. You know what? I'll bring it up to C. That's the best I'll do. All right, I'm sorry. Steve Lacy, Apollo. I really, really like Gemini Rights a lot, and I just feel like that album was everything this one should have been. This album felt very, very incomplete. I'm not saying it's horrible, but very incomplete. It wasn't a great debut. There should have been more to it. Yeah, there's some short tracks on here, man, and just did not meet the standards I was kind of expecting from Steve at the time. I like Inside. I like Playground. I put this in the C. Revenge of the Dreamers. Yeah, B. This was like a cool collective, really, really cool how they just kind of brought in all these different artists. The rollout of this album, if you guys remember, I don't know if you guys were around at the time, the rollout for this album was super sick. I remember they had all these different artists kind of posting on Instagram that they were there, that they were in the studio all together. The process of this album seems really, really dope. There's a lot of great tracks on this thing, a lot of great features. For a collective group project, I think this thing is like really cool. And it was a moment when it came out. So yeah. All right, and that's it.